Hey, welcome back, everybody. It's time to live the RAAD life. Just like our resident raconteur, our community storyteller, our bon vivant, our man about town, who lives it every day. We just get to ride along.
I just expect you to say to me, "Is it you? It's you again?" At some point.
Well, we don't know how long we have him for, because then all of a sudden he's off gallivanting around the world, and
Hey! I called in from Turkey.
Yeah.
Okay. When
From a yacht in
Chef
Turkey.
Bruno was a guest, and Chef Pascal was sat in for me, and I didn't even leave you alone from Turkey, man. I hunted you guys down.
Well, enough is enough. We're doing the show every day now.
Enough is enough. Yes, this is your daily dose of the RAAD life. And again, for those who have not been following us, and why haven't you been following us? We're doing these things because we don't feel that the candidates that are running for office, who basically should all be applauded for stepping up and doing sort of a thankless job here, and putting their head in the lion's mouth, so to speak. Jared's shaking his head. And we're doing it because, A, they should be recognized for doing that, regardless what their platforms are or what they're basically running on. And to be honest with you, the more I interview people, the more I realize there's a lot of common ground across multiple cities in Orange County. I mean, we're going to have some people from Anaheim, and we've been kind of focusing on South County. We did Costa Mesa, Irvine last week. There's a lot of common grounds. Really, honestly, there's a lot of common grounds in it.
No, there isn't. We're all divided. We all hate each other. We can't talk to each
Paul,
other.
if I don't give you the signal to weigh in, stay in your corner, okay? But no, honestly, it really has built some faith and hope in my mind, because sometimes we get very isolated in our thinking, and so I get a chance to sit down with people from different cities looking to step up and represent. And so, A, they should be recognized for stepping up, and B, I honestly don't believe you guys get the fair shake when you get into these forum situations where you're basically asked a question, given they're doing it for this reason. So follow up, man. We got 2 more weeks of people, so we're going to do it the whole month.
So who we got today? I think
we got a gentleman who is I like to think of him as being a friend of the show. He's been on here before.
Yep.
And a shout out for Pascal for actually introducing me to Jared.
Should we bring Pascal on? He can't be here today, but he's by phone. He's calling in.
Yeah. Why don't we have him on?
Let's see if we get the right thing.
Did we lose him?
Calling Pascal. Are you there?
I'm here.
You're here by phone. Now, we can't ever get the two of you together. He's off doing something. Now you're off doing something.
It's like Clark Kent and Superman. You cannot see us.
You never see them in the same room. Maybe you're the same guy. Yeah.
So Pascal.
I'm not on a vehicle boat in Greece.
You're not in a boat in the Mediterranean? Well, okay.
Oh, ouch, man. Okay, cut him off. We're done. No, Pascal, I'm glad you could join us, my friend. I know that you've been dealing with some personal stuff medically, and so I'm really happy to have you join us, especially since you were the person who introduced me to Jared originally when we had him in here to talk about the Moulton Museum and the Moulton Company. What was that, like a month ago, maybe 2 months ago?
A couple months ago.
Yeah. So how are you feeling, Pascal?
Feeling fine,
Are you back at home?
All down on the desert, all across the board.
Are you at home right now?
Are you back at home?
Yeah, I'm back home.
Okay, good. Yeah.
Are you going to bring some food over later today?
Paul, we need to work on our signals, Paul. That's in your corner.
I thought that means go.
No. But do you have any questions or anything you want to hang on with us online, and then maybe we bring you back on if you have any questions?
Okay.
That's awesome, Pascal. Thank you again for joining us.
Can you live on the phone?
I think let's let him go. I think it'd be hard to keep him on here.
Well, you can call back. I mean, if you're listening, if you have any questions for Jared.
We're going to cut you. We're going to cut you off and let you go rest.
Paul.
No.
Listen.
Get some rest, buddy. We'll talk to you later.
No.
Oh,
he's saying no.
No, he doesn't want to get off. Okay, all right. So, well, let's bring it back to the conversation here today. So, Jared, for those who don't know you,
who the heck are you?
Can you give some people a little bit of background?
Sure. Thank you. A pleasure to be on as always. And yeah, my name's Jared Mathis. I am running for Laguna Hills City Council. I've been a resident of Laguna Hills since 2013, but I have deep roots in the community. My family came here in 1874, and so that you talk about Moulton Museum. That's been a big passion of mine. But I've got a wife and 3 kids in Laguna Hills Public Schools. I run Moulton Company and also president of Moulton Museum. And my other passion right now is I'm coaching a 5th grade girls flag football team in Friday Night Lights. And I spend a lot of time working on plays and things. They're so great. It's so fun coaching. It's not my first coaching gig. I've coached Little League and that sort of thing. But I think it's important to give back. And these girls are just fabulous.
How old are your kids?
They listen. My 3 girls are 10, 12, and 14.
Wow.
So I've got a freshman in high school.
You're in for a rough time, buddy. 10, 12, and 14.
And you got a lot. So it sounds like you got a lot of time on your hand, right? to run for city council.
Man, what do they say? If you want something done, ask
Give it to a busy man.
Busy man.
Yeah, my dad used to say that.
And that I'm better human when I'm spinning as many plates as possible for the things that I care about.
Yeah.
And that's what I do. I give back to other arts organizations as well. I've been chair of Laguna Playhouse and currently chair of Laguna College of Art and Design. So art and culture and the history of the area are things that are very important to me. In addition to my business life, where it's basically primarily based around industrial, commercial, and residential real estate managing and doing that sort of thing. So, which means you put out fires every day.
But
right?
But you talk about history.
Well, you put out fires every day, but you're also solution-oriented.
Right.
By virtue of need. Like you need to be, right? Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Well, we got to mention one other thing, because you just slid through that. Your family was here early.
Yeah.
Right.
They created, next to the Irvine Ranch, the biggest ranch in Orange County. It was, rattle off the cities that eventually
were part of that ranch.
Right. So Laguna Hills being one of those, Laguna Woods, Aliso Viejo, Laguna Niguel, parts of Dana Point, parts of Laguna Beach, parts of San Juan Capistrano.
Wasn't it Chris Monarch Bay too or something?
Yeah. And that's the Dana Point piece that used to be Laguna Niguel, but it got annexed out. But yeah, basically Irvine to San Juan Capistrano was the ranch for Moulton Ranch with I-5 or El Camino Real, as it used to be known, as kind of the eastern border.
The Kings Highway.
And Laguna Canyon as the northern border, and it came behind Laguna Beach. Top of the world above Laguna Beach was part of the old place.
So when your family sold and started developing all this, Nellie Gale Ranch is your grandmother's name and all these things, why come back?
Well, we left because we kind of had to. We still wanted to be farmers and ranchers. And the encroachment of development and property taxes and all of those things just made it impossible. And so from the 22,000 acres that was Moulton Ranch, hundreds of thousands of acres of open rangeland were then purchased for other different ranches. I grew up on one of those about an hour north of Sacramento. So the family's purpose was that lifestyle, and being developers wasn't one of them.
Right.
So it was by necessity, and it started in 1959 when Laguna Niguel Corporation came and took a big chunk of Laguna Niguel, and then it ended in the mid-'70s when the last 9,000 acres of the ranch, which was basically Aliso Viejo area down to Aliso Creek area, down past the Ziggurat, was eventually sold off.
But to Paul's point, why come back? Why come back and be involved in that? Since you weren't really here, you were pursuing that lifestyle.
Well, it was to reconstitute Moulton Company, to reconnect with our history here,
Roots,
and also to manage some assets that were still here in Orange County that were coming due, specifically in Monarch Bay. That brought me from Washington, D.C., where I'd spent a decade prior. Brought me here in 2013.
Okay, and for those who want more on that aspect of it, please check out the RAAD Life episode where we did really delve into that deeper, and it's very fascinating and interesting, from the history side of it and how it connects with the region. Because sometimes I think, and we talked about it in that episode, that people don't understand the depth of history and legacy and how things, the interconnectivity of parts that basically are in Orange County as a whole, and in South County even. We kind of get forgotten sometimes,
Right.
but there's a lot of rich history, and I think, whether it's pride of place or whether you're a newcomer to town. I know just being in San Clemente that a lot of people that came into San Clemente later, like let's say in the last 20 years, 30 years, the fact that there was this wealth of culture, wealth of history, connectivity, it gives a sense of pride of place and a sense of ownership of that legacy, even if you are a transplant into that area. So thanks for putting out the museum and the effort for that, because that speaks directly to making that available for people, right?
Well, absolutely. And our primary goal is to build community around our shared history and the land that we all now share.
Right.
That used to be the heart of Moulton Ranch and so and beyond, not just about Moulton Ranch geography, but the region. And it's a real great tool to do that.
Well, and building community, just if I may, building community sometimes gets misunderstood as being building literally. The emphasis is on building and structure and, versus building place, building community, building a collaboration between people. That part of the word community sometimes gets lost in the word build.
Really, it's about connectivity.
It's connectivity,
and it's a lesson that we learned looking through all the old telegrams from all the old Orange County families that were spread apart by miles. Right, one homestead miles away from another. And all the communication that they had, they knew each other better. All those folks that were in Orange County, they knew each other better than we know our own neighbors that are right over the fence from wherever any of us live. And it doesn't matter the town.
And had each other's backs.
Right. And so, that's maybe that's a sad thing. Maybe it's just reality. But if we can do our part through whatever we're doing with the museum to build more connectivity between people and find more of the things that we have in common that we can celebrate, then we're doing our job.
Well, what's funny too, Jared, is that it sometimes, like, people, I've had my sister even ask me, like, how do you monetize this show? And I'm like, it's not about monetizing the show. It's about that connectivity you're talking about, right? So sometimes the value is measured differently, but it's priceless when you're able to do that, right? And perfect example today, I'm listening to news, and there's this second storm coming in through Florida and all this stuff, and governor's up there and he's talking, and I'm listening to him, and it's like we are getting assistance all the way out from California, whether it's the aircrafts for fire prevention, or basically the boots on the grounds, or it's the search and rescue. It's funny. When we have to come together, we come together.
For sure.
When we're complacent about the need to come together, we find things that basically different. We focus on the differences versus the things that where the grounds for collaboration and consensus and actually community.
Yes.
Right. So okay, well that's awesome, man. And so let's just focus again on this. So why are you running? Is it kind of an extension of that?
Well, so I started my career in politics.
Okay. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, sure. So I was always a public policy guy. That was my major at Pomona College back in another lifetime. Yeah, right. This mighty sage hens. And so going out of college, I was selected to. I was really fortunate. I got selected to Coro Fellow Program. Coro, C-O-R-O. And so there were 10 of us in the country chosen to be in the Los Angeles class. And so current U.S. Senator Alex Padilla and I were classmates in that. And so it was from that...
Alex is welcome here anytime.
Right. Well, so we hung out during that period of time, and we got to do some amazing things. I was driving around, who was... at that point, just running for LA City Council, Antonio Villaraigosa, and at that time, Mayor Tom Bradley was still around. So I got to do things like work with the LA County Human Relations Commission and go into Inglewood and negotiate peace treaties between the Bloods and the Crips, and at the same time, I got to work with different politicians like Governor Pete Wilson. I've worked with him. Congressman Frank Riggs, who recently passed away up in Napa. So Assemblyman Chris Chandler way back in the day. So I was involved politically all along the way. But to me, on the state and the federal level,
Yeah.
the partisanship was kind of distasteful for me even back then. This was 94, 95.
Because you ended up at probably, I mean, natural evolution probably would have been you, and that's how you ended up in D.C., right? It was an extension of your local involvement.
I decided that I wanted to be involved, but on the third rail in the trade association world. So I was working for the National Association of Home Builders in D.C., not necessarily for any particular politician or anything. So you had your interaction with them for sure, but it kept me in the game a little bit.
But that's where you got that sense of the taste of when you're
yeah,
operating at that
no,
level.
I liked it, and I liked being involved, but I wanted to get out of that partisanship and focus more on the business side of life. So I was able to do that, and then you fast forward, and then all of a sudden you're back in Orange County and extending your business career, and now it's 2024 and I'm at a point where I'm circling back. And I think maybe the taste of the museum, being involved in the community, really ignited that in me a little bit. Also, being on the couch during COVID, I was reminded how important local government really is.
And to be out there.
Right.
Yeah.
And that you want the right people in the room when things hit the fan, and it won't be the last time. And So for me, with my girls at the ages that they're at right now, I think it's an important lesson for them to see as well.
By example, sure.
Right, that being involved is important. I don't have to do this,
Right.
But and I think that's who you want in public service, are the people that don't have to do it, aren't looking to build a platform, aren't looking to try to elevate themselves necessarily. I think you want folks that have been accomplished in different sectors and that are at a point where they can give back, maybe even hesitantly give back, right? And,
reluctant,
Yeah, I think you want that reluctant
I
leader rather than somebody who's just trying to, build a profile. And so all that aligned for me. Before my mother passed away, we talked about it a lot. We talked about the importance of it. And so there's part of that motivation as well, is kind of fulfilling that promise. But moreover, and the underscore of the whole thing is that there's lots to do in Laguna Hills. I mean, there's lots of need that have nothing to do with me, that have everything to do with the community.
So let's just cut down. Let's get to it. What kind of things do you see that are? Because I mean, to paint a picture for people who don't know, right? Because people even in, I would say even North Orange County would probably say Laguna. What is that? Laguna Beach? Is that Laguna Woods? I mean, there's Laguna Hills, there's Laguna Woods, there's Laguna Niguel.
Right.
And what is a laguna?
Right, exactly.
Right.
And I mean, and people, every time I'll say I'm from Laguna Hills, and then we go further into the conversation, and they'll inevitably say Laguna Niguel, right? I mean, even though everyone's saying that wrong, it's actually Laguna Niguel. It's a Native American word, Niguel, but we're all trained to say Niguel. But anyway, in Laguna Hills, and I don't think it's unique to Laguna Hills necessarily, but we're a city with a bit of a revenue problem.
Okay.
And even to do the necessary blocking and tackling that any city council in any city needs to do for their residents, right? Just keeping the roads up and all the expense that comes along with that, that's a struggle. And we need to do better on the revenue side without putting it on the backs of the residents through increased taxes or fees and that sort of thing. We need to create more attractiveness for business and investment in Laguna Hills. And one of the things that's dragging us down and has languished over the last 10 years plus is the Laguna Hills Mall, that's now a big dirt pit that used to be a good source of tax revenue for the retail tax revenue for the city, that's not there, and we need to get to a solution.
So I want to paint a little bit of picture, because what you're sharing, I think, has even more of an impact if we tell people, like, how big is Laguna Hills?
So it's 30,000 people. Okay. About 19 to 20,000 of those are registered voters.
So it's not a large.
It's not huge,
right?
and it's got geographic challenges as well. The way that it's cut, Laguna Woods kind of cuts right in the middle of it.
Yeah.
And you've got most of your population in a different place than where the city hall is, and so if you were to ask yourself, "Hey, let's have a parade in Laguna Hills," where would
What's
you
the center?
where would you have it?
Yeah.
And listen, not everybody's as fortunate as Laguna Beach, where those things are,
No, it's
you know,
true.
very obvious. You know,
Right.
Laguna Niguel probably has the same problem.
Yeah.
But with that comes a sense of identity and a sense of place,
Yeah.
as we were kind of talking before
Absolutely.
we went on air,
Yeah.
about that sense of place. And so you've got to build community pride and sense of place in a city that's
Doesn't necessarily have that central.
right.
Yeah.
And so
And actually, the mall was probably the central element.
I think it served, especially in its heyday, I think it served as a central location for high school kids to go and for, you know, everybody to do their shopping and that sort of thing. And that's gone now.
Well, and for a city as small as like 30,000 people,
Right.
right? The economic engine of that mall being gone is a massive impact.
Millions of dollars every year that we used to get in tax revenue for the city that's not there, and beyond all the other real positive community connectivity aspects of it, which cultural and other of having that central place to meet your neighbors and to be a part of something together. That's they have to go somewhere else now.
So, Jared, the plans, correct me if I'm wrong, but the plans is that they're redeveloping that area right now.
Right, and there was a plan
which is not
approved.
unusual for malls, just in general across the country.
Totally.
We've changed. The way we buy has changed. The way we gather has changed. So malls are no longer the positive, generators that they used to be maybe in the 80s.
Right.
Right. So what's happening with that property?
So it was re-envisioned, and there was a plan approved with the city council, and that it was a combination of housing and retail and
Yeah.
et cetera. And it got everybody's approval after lots of back and forth about density and that sort of thing. And now the world changed, right? I mean, in that original plan, there was also 18 acres or so of office building, right, along Carlotta Ave.
And we know how many office buildings are sitting vacant.
Right. And there's never going to be an opportunity to build that stuff because nobody's going to build it. Right. So you've got to re-envision that piece of it
Absolutely.
already. The multifamily with the interest rates where they are now, people just aren't building it. Right. So you've got to come back to the table and re-envision what was approved. Development is a timing game,
Sure.
and sometimes developers get caught in the wrong part of the cycle. Right. But we shouldn't languish as a city.
No, you got to be nimble. You got to be
Right.
working at stuff that has the flexibility for adjustment,
Right.
and at the same time be proactive in getting it done within a
Right.
window that makes sense. Right?
And I don't think anybody has bad intentions, but we got to put the pedal to the metal and force the hand of getting to better solutions. And I think I'm uniquely qualified to be able to sit in that room
Sounds
and
like it, yeah.
have those conversations. And so I think that's a big part of what I bring to the table.
Well, for two reasons. One, because you have a development background. And
Right.
two, because you're
The
part of the
policy
history
aspect, too.
of the whole area. I mean, you've seen this
Right.
growth. You have a sense of history and perspective that most of us don't have. Well, my question is, why was it separated from such a small town? Why wasn't it just all Laguna
Carved
Niguel?
out the-
Yeah.
Well, because Leisure World was the first major development
Which
of
is now Laguna Woods.
of the old ranch,
Yeah.
which turned into Laguna Woods.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, when Laguna Hills was created and encompassed all of that, it was cut out. So Laguna Woods as its own community and also now city is an island inside
Laguna Hills.
Yep.
Okay, so the other thing
I
too,
wish I knew. Now, in one of the beautiful things about the museum is you get to talk to people who were around when all of these things were happening.
Right.
And there was at a time before all these cities started to get incorporated, which was not until the late 80s or early 90s.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Laguna Niguel was incorporated in 89.
Yeah.
There was talk of all being one city.
Yeah. I remember.
Saddleback City.
Yeah, I remember. I was in San Clemente in '87, and I remember when that conversation happened in Laguna Niguel.
Lake Forest,
Yeah.
Mission Viejo, all the other cities we've already mentioned would have all been one.
Yeah.
But that didn't happen. So anyway, we deal with what we've got.
But I'll tell you the fact that you're putting the museum together, okay, and that you're basically providing it as a gathering place and a center spot, you're actually doing that kind of place identity, right? And you're also, to your point, you're also opening yourself up for people to come in and share some of the stuff that maybe is the missing pieces in this puzzle, right? I think the other thing, Paul, is that you mentioned that Jared brings to the table is also this familiarity with the policy aspect of it, having worked on that side of things. And also, and what I'm hearing is you worked on it at that larger scale, and now you're basically saying, yeah, I know, but I think I make a better impact on the local level.
Right.
And so that's also something, it's not like, to your point, it's not like you're starting at the local level with this sort of aspirations and ambitions to reach for higher and larger. So your efforts are very focused and clear because of that.
Right.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I'm all in on Laguna Hills, and it's funny we talk about that mall site. That also was the Moulton Ranch headquarters, right there where the El Torito that just closed is.
That's where the ranch. That's the original family ranch was right there.
Yeah,
the homestead.
That was the headquarters. Yeah, that's where Nellie Gale and Lewis lived, and so many others, but that were part of that compound.
You told one funny story that I got to just bring up again. Not to go through the whole Moulton history again, because it's a fascinating story. But yeah, I've told so many people this. When the ranch, which ran basically from the Kings Highway, which is El Camino Real, which is basically the 5, all the way to the ocean.
Yeah.
The stuff along the ocean was worthless.
Yeah,
because you can't farm there, you can't graze cattle there. All the houses and all the property closer to the 5 was worth more, and that's where everybody lived. Your family didn't build the homestead overlooking the ocean.
Oh yeah, no doubt. I mean, it was closer to the train tracks,
transportation,
train tracks, power, water. It's no mistake, or it's not an accident that Leisure World was the first piece that was developed. In kind of the rolling hills.
So I'm going to share something with both of you that's just funny that this is the case here, because as I mentioned earlier, I had called in when I wasn't in the country. I called in from Turkey to say hello to the 2 chefs that were basically, I had an Italian and a French chef on the show, and I was like, I need to basically call in and make sure that they behave themselves.
Right.
but when I was in Turkey, I stayed with a friend of mine in Antalya, which is if geographically it's on the Aegean side of Turkey. All right, and it's funny because there's all these resorts that are on the beach, right? And there's all this land, like farming and stuff, right? Here's the funny reality. It's similar to what we were just talking about. The people who own the land, the farmers that own the land, right? They gave all their sons, because it's a very patriarchal society, they gave all the sons the land that was the farming and the production land, right? And they gave their daughters the useless land on the beach. Okay? So we are driving around, and you see people driving, you see the farmers' daughters driving the Porsches and the Aston Martins in Turkey, which has an unbelievable tariff or tax base, right, on any imports. And you see the sons driving the Caterpillars and the stuff like that, because they didn't look at that land by the ocean as being valuable. Because of, and it's really funny. So here's a similar thing that's happened. It's like, no, we're going to put it over here, and that's just back there. We don't know what to do with it. It's just by the ocean, by the water.
Right.
So, but so that's an interesting thing. So what else do you think opportunity-wise are, before we leave that side of the conversation, relevant to like business development, economic engine development, innovation? What do you think is needed for Laguna Hills?
How do you replace the mall?
Well, right. Well, there's some good plans in place, and there's good people working around it.
Okay.
And I think they're actively trying to re-envision it, and I want to be a part of that.
Okay.
But it's got to satisfy a number of needs, right? We're losing the middle, and what I mean by that is that for the first time, and I think in our history, parents can't guarantee that their children are going to be able to come back and live where they've lived and have a better life, right? And pretty soon you're going to end up in a situation, if we're not almost already there, where there's the people that have made it, and then there's the folks that serve the people that have made it, but there's nobody in between. And I don't think that that's a healthy society. So we've got to figure out a way to have opportunities for people to live here, at the same time be very sensitive to the idea of density, and sense of place and community, and not overtax our community as well. So the mall site has to have some housing element to it, one that's responsible. At the same time, it's got to have retail, that is not only serves the needs of the citizens, but also of the city from a tax perspective, to be able to fund to take care of all this place. And also, I think that there's some innovative and creative ways to use the space that could be, I think, something we could be known for. So that I can't really say more than that, but I think there's some really exciting opportunities.
No, that's awesome. And I think in a way, I'm going to say two things. One is a prediction.
Okay.
And one is just sort of to summarize sort of a little bit what you were saying is, I think what you just described, Jared, is actually something that is faced by every single city.
Right.
Not even just regionally, honestly, because we got that aging demographics. You got people that are longtime homeowners. You got people that haves and the ones that serve them, but the serve them aspect basically starts touching on attainable housing and workforce housing, appropriate and sensitive to the community's identity and DNA, right? And location. So I don't know one town, regardless of size, that is not facing this scenario, right? I mean, we had Irvine yesterday here, right? Had a guy running for city council in Irvine, and it's the newer part of Irvine, and it's some of the same situations: transportation. I mean, everybody's focused on the homeless aspect of it, but there's this other stuff, and there's this economic engine, and you're a real estate guy. This economic engine, which is very fundamental to how Orange County has evolved, but yet we're also built out in a lot of cases.
Right.
So how do we reimagine our economic engines?
And talk about John Dade you had on from Buena Park.
Yeah.
Where they're tearing down a mall again. Right?
Yeah. And they're like, no, we don't want to put that high density housing in here because it's inappropriate and where it is, right? But you need that innovative, out of the box thinking. The predictions I'm going to make is, from what I'm hearing from you and what I know about you, I know you don't necessarily want to go to a bigger office, but I can definitely see you in a regional thing. For sure, because it makes sense that somebody that has something to offer towards this, especially as we change the not necessarily the DNA nature of Orange County, but we are evolving. We're growing. We're becoming more seasoned in different ways, right? We're not the backwaters of South County anymore. Right. And you have other things. I mean, you're kind of like, you got the transportation corridor situation, right? You got the freeway right there. You got congestion to deal with, right? Even though you're 30,000 people, it's still...
Well, and you get the pressure from the state with the RENA numbers basically dictating that you need X number of more doorknobs in your city. And every city is struggling with that and trying to maintain control of their local housing decisions. And so there becomes not just pressure internally, but externally as well. And as far as other office, I have no desire. I am focused solely on city council, and I don't want to get the cart before the horse. And I'm going to need all the support I can get to actually get over the line.
Well, let me just say, if you ever do,
yes,
you got my support.
Thank you.
Because I mean, seriously, I mean, look, the whole reason for doing these things again is to know the people that you're voting for, because you're basically hiring them to do that job, right?
Right. Totally.
And credit where it's due. What I see you bringing to the table here, yes, it's a community of 30,000 people, but that kind of thinking is needed for all those people, all those cities around county.
Yeah, I'm hopeful we can get to a good place. But
how many running?
There's three of us running for two positions, and Don Caskey is running for re-election. And Don and I are friends, and I believe in what he's done so far as a city council member. And so my desire is for both of us to be able to cross the finish line together. I think that we've got the experience needed and compared to our opponent.
Well, and we'll extend an invitation to him. I mean, if he wants to come on, because he'll have a little bit of that sort of history background.
Yeah, and
more than happy to have him on.
He's an accomplished architect, and he's been involved in a lot of the things that we've already talked about today. And just a great guy. So yeah.
So what else do you see in terms of challenges or opportunities regarding Laguna Hills?
Well, we're aging in place, right? So I think that ties into what we were just talking about. But
what's the average age in Laguna Hills?
I think it's like 43.
40s, yeah.
Because some of these, like Newport, are moving. RAAD always gives the stat, like 60 60 plus is like 30%.
65% by, I think, it depends where you're looking, but like it's as early as 2030, 2050, 25% of Orange County is 65 plus. And in some communities like we are, where they're bedroom communities, people got in a long time ago, we're more. To your point, it's people that have moved in that have it. Part of it is that 50% plus equity in their homes that they're holding onto as their piggy bank as they get older, right?
Right.
And then you've got the increased cost of living increase, which is mostly real estate price and home housing, right?
Right.
That big portion now is also edging people out that even were born and raised in those communities.
Right.
So we're losing them in terms of the institutional knowledge base, right? It's so aging in place.
That's a challenge. I think that we're blessed with some things that have a double-edged sword to them. Okay, we have nice lots and big homes, and that's wonderful. And we have these neighborhoods that are built in a way that are conducive to families, which is also wonderful.
Yeah.
They're also targets for institutions like sober living homes that can be clustered in a way that can be detrimental to neighborhoods.
Sure.
We have a neighborhood right now, Meredith Hills, that has 5 within a very close proximity. And so it was a big topic at City Council last night. This is not new. We've been working on this for the last 10 years. Even after I just moved to town, we were experiencing this in southern Laguna Hills. It's really more of a state or federal issue. Sober living homes are protected class. And so it's tough to even really talk about it too much. But the city's focused on it. It's something that needs to be dealt with. There's folks that have had their neighborhoods turned upside down over it, and I'm ready to work on their behalf and make sure that we're doing everything we can. And I know Don Caskey feels the same way, and he's dealt with it and directly for a number of years. So that's an issue that we need to deal with. I think there's fun things that we can do too as a city. I mean, everybody in Laguna Hills, I swear, has at least 3 dogs, and we
is that a requirement?
Yeah, I think it is. We need a dog park. We need a big one. And we've got some land across from the community center that I'd love to dedicate to that.
Yeah.
That's not doing anything for anyone right now. I think that would be great. There's talk about, reshaping some of our existing parks. One of the, again, a blessing that we have, North County calls us overparked, but it has nothing to do with vehicles. It's that we have so much open space.
Yeah.
So there's talk of reconstituting portions of some of our bigger more popular parks into dog parks. I think it would be best just to build one that's separate.
Well, it gives you an opportunity for walkability.
Right.
It gives you, for being not necessarily only a commuter community that's all like traffic.
Right.
Traffic, so that's less impact, and it gives unique value propositions for people who are looking for an alternative lifestyle.
Yeah, and what we can do is provide an opportunity for people to enjoy that time with their pets and everything else, and their community members.
Oddly enough, it brings people together because you start talking about my dog and your dog, and suddenly you're communicating with people.
Right. So I think that's an interesting concept. It's not a real big ticket item. That's something that can add real value to the community. There's a whole host of things, but by and large, we've got a revenue issue that we need to solve.
Sounds like a big one. How much was that loss from the mall, the retail? I mean, you say millions. So you got a figure?
I mean, back in the day, it was bringing in over $2 million a year in tax revenue to the city. If it was active today, I'm sure that number would be a lot more. That's a big hole in a city budget, particularly a small city. And the city's budget was balanced to the tune of, I think, $125,000 last year. So that's fairly razor thin. The reserves, the current council's done a nice job building up the reserves. They expect that number should be somewhere in the $24 million range. And then after reallocating some funds, I think we go into the next fiscal year probably looking at 19 to 20 million in reserve, which is okay, but we need to do a lot better, and our receipts have to be better.
So let me ask you this: the mall failing, if you will, right, or changing the way based on our purchasing habits changed its effectiveness. That's been ongoing for a while. Right. It's been sort of like a drip, 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 like a thousand cuts kind of thing. Right.
Right.
So was the was it just it took a long time for people to come up with a solution that would work? What was the reason for it? Like,
well, I can't. I wasn't in the room at the time,
Yeah,
but it
just
really
curious.
accelerated when everything was bulldozed down.
yeah,
Right.
yeah,
So I think there was a
No more thinking about it. It happened.
right.
Yeah.
right.
So the first handful of years, I think there was the planning process and timing and all of that sort of thing, and CEQA process and all the things that you have to go through from a regulatory process. But then, things got torn down with the anticipation of building, and then
Right.
prices and the world changed.
Now, and I'm trying to get my head around the area, because I know that the area to the south end of the mall that got developed. There used to be like a Marshalls there, or now it's apartments or something like high density. It's just to the left side of the mall
They haven't
area.
built much
Well,
there yet.
there's Oak Brook Village that is on the north end of where the mall was.
Right.
North of that El Torito and the Trader Joe's there.
Okay.
So that's the apartments that are there.
And then is the corridor where like there's like a lamp, there used to be like a Lamps Plus maybe, and some furniture store. Is that part of you as well?
No, that's still all there. Game Craft Brewing and all of that. That's
Yeah.
all still there. That's just off of Carlotta,
correct.
which is my grandmother Charlotte, by the
Okay.
way. But anyway, and that's Laguna Hills.
That's still Laguna
Yeah,
Hills.
yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right. Yeah, I'm just trying to get my mind around it, because it seems like some of those areas actually did kind of catch the need for reinvention quicker than what happened with the mall. But
Right.
to your point, it's a larger property, and with the CEQA impact and all this stuff.
Basically, Saddleback Memorial is right across the street
On the other
to,
side,
to
exactly.
the west,
Yeah.
and then there's King's Fish
Fish
House,
House, yeah.
and then all the empty space in between to the Oak Brook Village basically is what needs to be redeveloped.
Yeah. Okay. So definitely. So is there a timeline? Like when do you think that's with all the rethinking about it?
My timeline would be yesterday. I think reality is far different than that. But I would hope that within 5 years that we've got something being built at the very least that people can enjoy.
And let's talk about this housing situation too. Like, what are you envisioning we need to do to provide for that better mix of housing? Like,
Well,
what do we need?
in our most dense area in northern Laguna Hills, it's about 20 units per acre.
Okay.
Okay. Some of these big developments that get proposed is somewhere 50 or 60,
Yeah.
right?
Double. Yeah.
And that's just not who we are.
Mm-hmm.
We can't do that. Citizens don't want it. The residents, reject that. The council, I don't think, wants it. So I think somewhere in that 20 unit range per acre is something that you can start to build something that makes sense, that takes advantage of opportunity on open sites. And also, we've got to replace a lot of aging housing that needs to be replaced. But I don't want high density, right? I believe in open space. Earlier this year, I signed a contract to dedicate 5,000 acres of open California rangeland so that it can never be developed in perpetuity. And my family has done so over the last, 10 years, dedicated another 14,000 acres for that purpose.
Yes.
To
This is on your other ranches or something.
Yes, to under conservation easement.
So what is it that replaces a bulldozed mall? They thought it was office buildings, and that's what the plan said, and that ain't
Right.
going to fly because the world changed. and-
Well, that was a portion of it. The total site size is 63 acres.
Wow.
Now, all you have to do is look at what's going on at the Ziggurat right now.
Yeah.
Every day there's a new bid. There's 300,000 that has to be
The
added
number
to the
just
bid.
keeps going up.
Right. I think it's at 175 million
Yeah.
or
which is
plus.
100 million more than they projected.
Yeah.
Right. And that's 93 acres roughly. So you compare that size of the site to the Laguna Hills site. There's some pretty innovative ideas about what to do with the Ziggurat. I think those things will be applied in
Who
Laguna Hills.
owns the mall? What company owns
It's
them?
the developers, a company called Merlone Geyer.
And so it's not part of one of these giant chains that owns the malls.
Merlone Geyer is a developer that's got good reputation, that is primarily deals in retail, specifically supermarket anchored shopping centers, that sort of thing. I think they're playing the role of master developer. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean, I think that they would sell off pieces to other people to build
because we're seeing that
things.
play out. We had Bill Shopoff in here a while ago on another show. He bought the Westminster Mall, but I think, did he sell it off now or part of it or something? Anyway, they were going to tear that down and redevelop it. Main Place Mall is obviously building apartments and condos in part of the mall there. You had your friend John Dayton here, who's running partly because he's opposed to the 7-story apartments that they want to build on part of the old Buena Park Mall.
Yeah.
Right.
Everybody needs housing. Nobody needs retail, and yet the cities have to have retail or they won't survive. Are you guys familiar with the Palos Verdes story? I used to live up in that area, and Palos Verdes was created as an area purposely with no retail.
Yeah.
How beautiful it was, and the city's gone bankrupt. This affluent area that can't survive as a city, and they keep talking about unincorporated.
With one way in and one way out.
Yeah.
Right. Well, it all comes full circle. So my great aunt Nellie Gale's daughter Louise Hansen, Ivar Hansen worked for Laguna Niguel Corporation, but he designed a Palos Verdes estates. So,
which
so there you
seemed
go.
wonderful when they
The
built it.
interconnectivity of stuff in Southern California.
And turned out to be, they can't sustain it. They're talking
Right.
about literally unincorporating it because they can't run it as a city anymore.
Right,
All
right.
this affluent homes.
Yep.
Yeah, but it does beg the question that why do we have these challenges? And I'll just put my professional hat on for a minute. You got to know your audience, and you got to give people. I think I was at the Cove a couple of years ago, and this guy was doing a presentation, and the one slide that he put up that just stuck with me. He says, "Invest in emotion."
Yeah.
Right? I think what happens sometimes is we get so caught up in the nitty-gritty of the stuff that we forget that we have to get the community vested in interest and basically being vested for the success of a project.
Right.
And you got to basically walk people through and show it. And when people are accustomed to certain things and you're trying to pivot them and change their outlook to something else being also positive, you got to take the time to get them there. So when we got opportunities for stuff like this, you can't just come in and just try to shove it down people's throat when they've known only one thing for so long. And you got to basically walk them through it a little bit, and you got to understand that that's part of the process to get the thing to happen.
Right.
Right.
But at the same time,
And again, be sensitive and appropriate to your point, Jared. That 20 units. But you got open space, you've got repurposing, rezoning potential and possibilities.
Right.
So there's another way of doing it versus maximum build out on a particular lot to try to meet whatever it is that you're trying to be told by the state to do.
I think there's got to be ways to be creative and meet the needs of our established neighborhoods because they have earned that right. They've invested in the community, and you don't want to just come in and bulldoze over people's rights, right? And their sense of community. At the same time, we can't age in place. So there's a rub, and we've got to get there. But I think we can do it. And we're not. People like to say Laguna Hills is completely built out, and to a large extent that's probably true. But I think there's creative ways to do things. And I hope to just be in the room to help represent the values of the residents.
We got 60 acres to reimagine here and figure out how to use it. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Well, I'm glad to see you step up and do this, and I can totally see the value in you being involved in this, because again, you bring in a very unique mix of background and experience to the benefit of the community. So, how's it been running?
I've enjoyed it, knocking on doors. I've left a lot of messages on Ring cameras. It really ticks me off that I didn't invest in Ring camera because evidently everybody has one.
Yeah, I got one.
And so, folks that don't answer the door, they're not there, or they don't feel like it or whatever, I'll just leave a little commercial.
You are the first person. You want to talk about innovation? Here's the innovation in running a campaign. You're leaving messages on the Ring camera.
Right, absolutely. Because either they're watching it or it's recorded, and I just say, "Hey, I'm your neighbor. I'm here."
That's awesome.
So doing a lot of that. But
do you tell them your family history and connection to the land, or are you just a guy running for office?
And they're like, "Get off my porch!"
Right. I don't
You've
care.
taken too much time.
I'm watching the game. Stop bothering me. Whatever. I try not to lead with that. I mean, certainly it's present in some of our material. But what I've said is, I'm proud of the history of Laguna Hills. I'm proud of the role that my family has played in the history of Laguna Hills and the region. But make no mistake, the campaign's about looking forward and not backwards. It's not about the past. It's about the future, and we need to be laser focused on the future in Laguna Hills.
More so than ever.
More so than ever, because we need to find solutions to our problems.
That's awesome. What has the reaction been?
It's all been very positive. There's, especially within the groups of folks that we interact with, not only me, but my wife, who's a wonderful support system for me. And she's involved in so many other things herself with PTA and drama at the elementary school, the drama program. And
I thought you were just talking about the drama that goes on every day at these elementary schools.
That's why I clarified, because I was like, oh my gosh. And so with her incredible group of friends, and with all the folks that we've interacted with in all of our different dealings in the community, it's been a very positive reaction, a lot of signs in yards. So yeah, everybody's rooting me on. That is in our circle anyway. I hope it translates to folks that take the time to go to the website and learn about who I am and what I believe in and what matters, I think, in my view, to Laguna Hills. And I hope that gets them motivated to check my box.
Well, and you could easily run on to what Paul was saying. You could easily run on sort of that family legacy thing, but you're not. And your focus is, yes, but that's just part. This is all. And honestly, I think I can't imagine it being not positively received. I mean, I want to ask you just one thing, because it's come up in conversation with other people that have been on the show during the series.
Last question of the day.
Well, yeah, and it's like, this is it. Have you had people, when you basically reach out to them, knocked on their door, left them a message on the ring or whatever, right? Have you had people actually tell you, wow, it's actually nice to have somebody come and ask me? Like, that seems to be a repetitive response from the communities.
I think that's absolutely right. I mean, a common refrain, I've heard it at least a handful of times. I've lived in the community for 17 years. Not one person who's ever run for city council or made it has ever actually knocked on my door. Thank you.
We got one more question here. Pascal's patiently been waiting all afternoon to make one more thing. He just called back in. Pascal, what do you got? You there?
Hello?
Yes.
I'm here.
This is your moment to shine. What have you been waiting for an hour to jump in?
Yeah, first, Jared, I'm sorry I could not be there because I really like you. And I was, when I first met you, because you were doing an event at the museum, and I visited the museum. I didn't know who you were, and I learned so much about the past of Laguna Hills and Laguna Niguel, and I discovered the history that I didn't know. And that's why if our listener listen to this podcast, I urge them to come and visit the museum. But also, I don't live in your community, so I won't be able to vote for you. However, if I vote for the people, for the person, and you will be my choice, because you're such a people person. You're so involved in the community, and you're so humble. It's unbelievable. And I think that was in your family, and you're just keeping the tradition going.
Well, Pascal, thank you. It's great to hear your voice. I'm sorry we're not together in person, but you've been an inspiration ever since we got together. So I appreciate those kind words. We're going to record those and put them on everybody's Ring camera.
That's it. That's what goes on the Ring camera. Pascal, Chef Pascal's endorsement here.
That's right. It means a ton, and I hope you're well. I love it. Thank you.
Jared, how do people find out more about your campaign, and how can they do it? To Pascal's point, they may not be in your community, may not be able to vote for you, but how can they be involved, help? What?
Yeah, go to jaredmathis.com, okay? And everything on the campaign is laid out there. You can see all the videos of other podcasts and things, including my last one here, there. And also, if you want to donate, you can donate there. But really, just read up about me. And if you know anyone in Laguna Hills and you want to give them a recommendation on how to vote, hopefully it goes my way. And I would really appreciate anybody interested, engage at jaredmathis.com.
Yeah, and I'll tell you something we've touched on, we've tried to emphasize during this series, is that all these communities are interconnected. So even though you may not live in Laguna Hills, knowing about who is basically stepping up in Laguna Hills is something that's beneficial, because your elected official is going to probably need to work with that person for regional solutions like the homeless or transportation corridor situations or things like open space, or heck, even like just more sports fields for AYSO somewhere,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
So get to know definitely the people that you're voting for, but also get familiar with the people that are serving in other communities around you. We are all a large, interconnected county. It's probably, I say it all the time, it's like the
100%.
smallest county. Orange County is a very small county. As big as we are, we run into people all the time. We're always interconnected with someone. So get to know people, and I appreciate you being here, Jared, and giving us an opportunity to introduce you to more people. And I really wish you luck, my friend. I'm glad that you're stepping up and doing this.
Thank you. I really appreciate it, and it's always good to be with you.
And Pascal, thanks for being able to
He
weigh in.
he got cut off.
Yeah,
there,
I hope you feel well. Hopefully he's listening. I hope you feel better. We send you our best wishes for a speedy recovery. And next time we meet with Jared, we'll meet in person.
Sounds good.
All right, we'll go see the museum. I've been wanting to go see
Where
the
is
museum.
the museum?
Yeah, where's the museum?
It's in Laguna Hills, and it's off La Paz and Cabot, so just right off the freeway there at La Paz off the I-5.
It's in a shopping center. There.
Yep.
So go check it out and say hi to Jared.
Okay.
Thanks,
very good.
guys, and we will be back Friday.
Oh, I get a day off?
You get a day off. I have to go down to San Diego to actually go to a conference on real estate, commercial real estate.
okay.
So I will see you guys on Friday. Thanks again for being here, Jared, and good luck with the campaign. I would be very surprised.
Oh, well, your lips to God's ears.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul, for having us.
Show's over.
Jared, what I will do is
Yes.
The show's over. We're all done.
download the whole.
Okay. But thank you for giving me.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sorry we had to let you wait the whole time there.
Yeah.
All right, we'll see you next time. Get better.
Thank you, Bob.
Bye.
Okay, great.